Darkness shrouds the still waters of Pearl Harbor as the morning of December 7, 1941 begins like any other, until it isn't. The calm is shattered by a thunderous roar overhead. Japanese fighters scream through the clouds like angry hornets, their machine guns stitching fury into the ships below. Flames erupt as USS Arizona explodes, her hull torn like paper. American sailors, young and unprepared for war, scramble from burning quarters, cries of panic and disbelief echoing off steel and ocean. Admiral Husband E. Kamel stands frozen at the window of his headquarters, his trembling hand clutching the blinds. "My God," he whispers, voice cracking, "they actually did it." The fire in his eyes isn't just horror, it's something deeper, something personal. In Washington, President Franklin D. Roosevelt listens grimly as the news pours in, each report more horrific than the last. His knuckles pale against the armrest, jaw clenched. "This is a day that will live in infamy," he mutters to himself before turning to his aides. "Prepare the address. America must know we will respond." Behind him, Eleanor watches quietly. She knows her husband won't sleep tonight, not for the next 1,000 nights, and across the nation a storm begins to rise. Factory lines awaken, recruitment offices flood. America stares into the abyss and chooses vengeance. In the arid plains of Utah, a quiet mechanic named Jimmy Doolittle sharpens a wrench with steady hands. The war calls to him not as a duty, but as a test. Doolittle, brash and brilliant, has flown faster, harder, and longer than most men would dare. Now he's summoned to the Pentagon. There, General Henry Hop Arnold awaits, brow heavy with burden. "Jimmy," Arnold says, "we need a strike, not defense. Not delay, we need to hit back." Doolittle nods once. The kind of nod that doesn't ask why. The plan is bold to the point of madness. 16 B-25 bombers, medium range, too large for carriers, will launch from the USS Hornet, skirt the skies over Japan, and drop their vengeance. Pilots train in secrecy in Florida, touching down on impossibly short strips mimicking carrier decks. Every man knows the risks. The bombers won't be able to land back. They'll run out of fuel over China. Captain Ted Lawson eyes his young crew, barely out of high school, and tells them, "This isn't suicide, boys, it's justice." On April 18, 1942, the Hornet sails beneath a slate-gray sky. Wind howls over the deck. The lookouts spot a Japanese fishing boat, hundreds of miles too soon. The mission is compromised. Commander Mark Mitchell turns to Doolittle. "We launch now or not at all?" Doolittle nods again, lips tight. He climbs into the lead bomber, jacket flapping in the gale, engine screaming to life. As his B-25 lifts off the carrier, barely clearing the edge, the men below break into cheers and prayers. Hours later, Tokyo awakens not to sirens but to explosions. Industrial zones ignite, factories tremble. The Japanese scramble to respond, but the Americans vanish into the sky as quickly as they came. Doolittle's bombs leave scars, yes, but more importantly they leave fear. Civilians flee their homes, unsure how the mighty Japan could be reached. The imperial military reels, pride is wounded. The myth of invincibility cracks. But the price is steep. The bombers don't make it to safety. Over Chinese mountains, fuel runs dry. Ted Lawson's plane crashes near a ravine, fuselage twisted and smoking. He wakes hours later, leg mangled, his co-pilot dead beside him. Locals, peasants with nothing but kindness, rush in, carrying Lawson through rough terrain to distant hospitals. Japanese patrols swarm nearby, executing villagers suspected of helping Americans, yet the Chinese persist. Hidden lies in America's vengeance. Doolittle limps across a rice field, soaked and bruised, welcomed by guerrilla fighters who guide him to safety. He believes the mission a failure. Too little damage, too high a cost. But back home, headlines roar with pride. The Doolittle raid becomes legend. It reminds America and the world that no enemy is beyond reach, that retribution has wings. In Tokyo, Prime Minister Tojo fumes. The raid has shaken the emperor himself. It is Tojo who demands response, who calls for the campaign to seize Midway Island, a ploy to lure the remaining American fleet into destruction. But unknown to Tojo, Admiral Chester Nimitz prepares a counterstrike, and in June the tides turn. Japan's fleet is broken at Midway, losing carriers, crews, and the edge of surprise. Years later, Doolittle stands before a crowd of veterans and families, metal glinting against his uniform. "We did what had to be done," he says, voice thick. "Not for glory, not for hate, but so the world would know we will not fall quietly." In the audience, Ted Lawson, now in a wheelchair, smiles faintly. He's lost friends, limbs, pieces of himself, but in that moment he feels whole. The narrator's voice settles as the screen dims, showing flickering footage of bombers over the sea. "When the dust of betrayal settled on Pearl Harbor," the voice says, "America chose not silence, but defiance. The Doolittle raid was a whisper turned into thunder, a promise that even in pain, freedom will fly."